It is time to kiss all those Disney World regrets goodbye because the DFB team and I are going to make sure your 2024 trip doesn't spiral. Not in the roller coaster way, but in the flush down the toilet bowl kind of way. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. Now, a trip to Disney World can be this amazing, super awesome, fabulously fun time that makes you dream about the next time you can go back to make more memories and eat more ice cream bars and listen to more Disney instrumental tunes play throughout your hotel room. But it can also be a trip where you wind up kicking yourself, wishing you'd done things differently to make certain sticky situations easier on you and your group. Now, here at DFB, we've done all of that stuff. We've had all the regrets, we have all the guilt. So let's get rid of all of it for you so you don't have to worry about them later in between ice cream bars. Regret number one, it's little, but it can make a big, big impact, and that's forgetting your phone charger. It's unheard of nowadays to tackle a Disney World trip without your smartphone. It's got your camera, your credit card info, your park tickets, your room key, all the Disney World menus, your digital itinerary, probably your DFB guides. Oh, and you can make calls from it too. Just a side option there, like a side hustle for your phone. But even after charging your phone all night, your phone might still kick the bucket after a few hours of being in the park just because you're going to be referring back to it repeatedly. So what happens then? What happens when the Swiss Army knife of all your Disney vacation planning goes dark on you in the middle of your park day? It's happened to us a bajillion times, and you've got to charge it. Disney World actually has several areas where you can squat for a while and juice up your phone through one of the park's provided outlets. For example, there are the New World Celebration Gardens in Epcot that have a bunch of little outlet stands, the Storybook Circus tent, or the Tangled Stumps in Magic Kingdom, and there's even USB outlets in several Disney World buses now. But to use these outlets, you're going to have to remember to bring your own phone charging cord because Disney's not just going to let you take one of theirs. So make sure to have one handy in your park bag at all times. And if you don't have time to sit for a spell and wait for your phone to power back up, it might be an even better idea to pack one of those portable chargers to use throughout the day too, or put a charging case on your phone before you head out. If you forget a portable charger, Disney does sell fuel rods around the parks for when you're in a bind. After all, they know just how crucial your phones are when it comes to your visit, but fuel rods can be expensive for just one, around $30 per fuel rod. Then again, once your fuel rod runs out of juice, you can always swap it out at one of the many fuel rod kiosks for a fully charged one for free, which wasn't always the case back in the day, so we're glad it's the case now. Want to save money on fuel rods? Try buying them on Amazon ahead of time instead of inside the parks. Amazon sells legit fuel rod chargers that you can still swap out at any of the park kiosks, but instead of paying $30 for one, you'll pay around $30 for two. That's a great deal. Now, we just did an awesome blog post that is everywhere we like to charge our phones around the Disney World parks. This also includes those wireless charging little pads at Connections Eatery and Cafe, the fact that you can borrow a phone charger at guest services. You have to stay there and charge it there, but you can borrow one there. Lots of other little tips and tricks about how to charge your phone, so go check out that blog post next. Next big regret you might have in Disney World in 2024, tying your happiness to one thing. So rides break down, weather cancels shows, restaurants change menus, characters stop meeting and greeting. Disney World is full of inconsistencies, which is why it's so important to make sure you're not tying your whole vacation happiness-o-meter to just one thing, like riding a new ride or trying a certain dish at a restaurant. Fill your itineraries with lots of things that you and your group are looking forward to. Now, this is especially important to remember now that virtual queues are in the Disney scene, because we've seen a lot of folks before who've been so pumped to try out the latest and greatest rides in Disney World, only to completely miss the virtual queue drops for them, or not even realize they had to have a virtual queue to ride them at all. Because if a ride has a virtual queue, it's not going to have a regular standby line at the moment. And while virtual queues can be nice because they prevent you from having to wait hours in line for a new experience, they also book up super fast, which is what we're afraid is going to happen to Tiana's Bayou Adventure once it opens up. Now, I understand that missing the newest ride in the park is going to be a major bummer if that happens to you. I mean, you're paying all that money to be there in the first place, so why is the fate of riding this one ride resting on whether or not you can enter the virtual queue faster than everybody else? But this is me telling you that, yeah, it could happen. You could miss it. You might not, and that'd be awesome if you didn't, but there's also a chance that the virtual queue game isn't going to work in your favor. And it's just a good idea to mentally prepare yourself and your kids for that possibility so you can be ready to bounce back quickly without losing the momentum of your day. But don't give up before the battle's been fought. There are several ways you can improve your chances of getting on the newest rides. So let's review. First, keep in mind that the 7 a.m. queue drop isn't your only chance of getting a boarding group number for a ride's virtual queue. You'll have a second shot at 1 p.m. too, but you're just going to need to make sure you're inside the park that houses that ride before the clock strikes 1 p.m. You might also get a third chance of getting in the virtual queue if you're staying in a deluxe resort and the park that houses said popular ride has extended evening hours that night. Deluxe resort guests are the only folks who can take part in extended evening hours, which will give you an extra 2 hours inside select parks on certain nights, which means you can try for that third 6 p.m. virtual queue drop for an easier shot of getting in line for the ride. Okay, second option. Consider purchasing an after hours ticket if the park with the new ride has them available. After hours are separately ticketed events that are capped off at a limited number of guests and give you 3 extra hours in the park after it closes to the general public. This means ride lines are going to be much shorter than you'll find them during normal park hours, and you don't even have to get a virtual queue to ride the ride you want to ride. We saw this happen for Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind when we attended an Epcot After Hours event, and we saw it happen for Tron over in Magic Kingdom as well. No virtual queues, no problem riding the ride, sometimes multiple times. So this may be worth the after hours cost alone. Third, you can always purchase an individual lightning lane for these rides if you're nervous about the virtual queues and you want to skip over that chaos entirely. Granted, we're probably still going to see the individual lightning lanes for Tiana's Bayou Adventure sell out fairly quickly during those first couple of weeks if they have them, but if you're staying in a Disney-owned hotel, you'll have the advantage of booking your individual lightning lane right when the clock strikes 7 a.m. Meanwhile, all other non-Disney hotel guests will have to wait to book theirs until park opening, and unfortunately, it may be too late by then. We do see individual lightning lanes sell out before the park opens. Fourth, if you don't want to pay any extra for a better chance of getting on Disney's newest ride and you'd rather just dive into the virtual queue chaos head first, you can get a head start by confirming your ride party beforehand, starting at 6 a.m. That way, you don't have to worry about completing that extra step right when the virtual queue opens at 7. All you'll have to do is worry about tapping on one single button, the Join Virtual Queue button. Then finally, wait! Just wait. When Tiana's finally opens, it's going to be so stinking busy, and that means not only will virtual queues be harder to snag and individual lightning lanes will be harder to purchase and more expensive, but it could also mean a lot of extra kinks in the system that'll cause the ride to go down for extended periods of time while cast members and Imagineers try working out all the new quirks that they're bound to run into when a new ride goes live. It's like opening day of a new show. You've practiced and you've had your dress rehearsals, but when it's the day of the show, y'all, that first performance is usually going to run into the most mistakes. So if you want to improve your chances of getting on Tiana's Bayou Adventure after it opens, you might be better off just waiting to take your vacation a couple of months after all the initial hype dies down. Yep, it'll still be pretty busy, but you may not run into quite the demand for it that you will during those first few weeks of operation. Now, this next one is kind of an obscure and random one, but I will tell you it is definitely going to be a regret if you do it. That is attending the first night of one of the holiday parties. It's not always avoidable, and you may not even want to take this advice, but if you can refrain from attending one of Disney's after-hours holiday parties, like Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party or Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party on the very first night, you probably will want to. Let's travel back in time together, back to just last year when Jollywood Nights hosted its first ever Christmas party soiree in Hollywood Studios. When the DFB team attended this debut event, things were a little chaotic to say the least, but then we gave the party another go later on in December and found out that things were running a whole lot more smoothly. So what happened between these parties that made them so different quality-wise? Well, in our experience from not just Jollywood Nights, but pretty much every debut party night, which we've been a part of for years and years and years now, as well as first days of festivals and first days of ride openings, etc. The first of anything is usually very crowded despite the party's limited capacity and more expensive, like a $40 plus difference between night 1 and night 2, depending on the party you attend. But think of those kickoff holiday events like a park rope drop, but for a party instead of a ride. Night 1 for parties is normally filled with Disney super fans who want to make sure they get in line for all the new and returning stuff before everyone else does, which is why the very first party parties of 2024 will more than likely sell out just like we've seen in the past. These are all the bloggers, the vloggers, the content creators, the people who gain some weird sort of status if they go first. And on top of all the massive crowds, it's also important to keep in mind that there's no dress rehearsal for an entire holiday party. Cast members have to experience all the unexpected challenges of night one along with all the other party attendees, so be prepared for a fun time, but potentially also a few kinks that everyone is trying to work through during the event. After night one of Jollywood Nights, Disney took note of the feedback and suggestions they'd been receiving and were able to make some improvements to the later Hollywood Studios parties. So those who planned Jollywood visits after the kickoff event got to witness these adjustments firsthand. Luckily, after-hours parties tend to have quite a few dates for you to choose from, so unless you truly have your heart set on visiting the very first party, I highly suggest you take a look at the event calendar online, find a less expensive and potentially less hectic party date. So Disney's park hours are constantly changing, and I definitely want you to check them before you go. And I don't mean check them 2 months before, 3 months before, 4 months before, but definitely check them the week before and even the day before you go. Sometimes the parks close earlier than you expect them to because of a cast member training event or an after-hours party. Sometimes they stay open later because you're visiting during peak season times. Sometimes they close immediately after their nighttime spectacular, and sometimes they stay open an hour or two longer so you can squeeze in some last-minute rides. Fortunately, you don't have to be taken off guard by Disney's ever-changing park hours, because park hours for all the parks tend to be released a few months in advance, and then they're updated online and on your My Disney Experience app every day. But even then, park hours can be subject to change, which is why it's so important to keep an eye on them via the Disney World Hours and Events calendar, or MDE. And we're here to help you out too. The DFB team and I have created a full webpage dedicated to keeping track of all Disney World's most recent park hour updates, so make sure to check that out when you get the chance to. I'll go ahead and link that down in the description for you, just so you don't have to go on a scavenger hunt for it later on. And just like park hours, Disney's restaurant hours aren't always going to be the same for all their restaurants across the board either. Yep, inconsistencies, gotta love them. Some restaurants will stay open until the park closes up shop. Some restaurants will stay open a little bit after a park closes up shop, like Casey's Corner in Magic Kingdom. Some restaurants will continue popping for hours after the park closes, like what you'll find over in Disney Springs. Some restaurants will close hours before the parks do, like several Animal Kingdom snack and quick service kiosks. And some restaurants will only be open for a limited amount of time during the day, like how Hoop-Dee-Doo Musical Review at Fort Wilderness has 3 showtimes per evening, one at 4 p.m., one at 6:15, and one at 8:30. The advice I'm giving you here is real straightforward. No catches, no loopholes, no parts A, B, C, and D. If there's a restaurant you want to check out during your upcoming visit, check its listed hours ahead of time. Whether it be a quick service, a table service, a signature service, or lounge, each place has its own hours of operation, and you're going to want to study up on them just so you don't potentially miss out on any of your priority eats and treats from any specific location. I've personally run into this with ABC Commissary, where I wanted to go eat there and they closed at 5 for some reason. So there we go. Ooh, this is a good one, and I haven't talked about it in a long time on the channel. So I love Disney's table service restaurants. They are great, but what I don't love about them is how big of a time suck they can be. Also, huge portions. So let's say you're visiting Disney's Hollywood Studios. There's tons to do in this park. You've got those A-tier rides, Broadway-style performances, lots of meet and greets. But if you plan to eat at more than one table service that day, either to fulfill your standard Disney Dining Plan table credits or just because you couldn't decide on only one place to eat and you booked multiple reservations, been there, there's a good chance you're going to have to start sacrificing some of those major attractions to make room for each of those 90+ minute dining experiences, especially if you don't plan on purchasing Genie Plus that day. Not to mention, table service restaurants are super filling. So if you eat, say, a giant cheeseburger entree at Sci-Fi Dine-In for lunch, you might not be hungry again by the time your Roundup Rodeo barbecue reservation comes around for dinner, even though you'll be expected to eat lots of all-you-care-to-enjoy platters with all sorts of smoked meats and picnic-style sides, including a swirly twirly sausage. Now, if you absolutely love Disney dining and you don't mind sacrificing a few rides or shows so that you can experience these over-the-top restaurants, then that's great. Everyone prioritizes different things on vacation, so don't let someone try to talk you out of an experience that you know your family's gonna love. However, However, if you're not wanting to pay for multiple hearty meals in each of the parks to save you time, money, and stomach space, then consider choosing your absolute must-try restaurant in each park and maybe booking it for a later lunch or earlier dinner so you can take a break from the crowds and the heat for a bit. Disney World's quick services are nothing to sneeze at either, so don't think you're automatically sacrificing quality food just because you're not booking a sit-down meal for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Some of our favorite places to eat around property come from Disney's fast food options, like Satuli Canteen at Animal Kingdom, Backlot Express in Hollywood Studios, Columbia Harbor House in Magic Kingdom, and Regal Eagle Smokehouse in Epcot. You may also prefer packing your own lunch or dinner to avoid paying for Disney food altogether. I see people picnic in the parks all the time. You just got to make sure you're following the picnic rules. So don't pack foods in glass containers, don't bring items that need to be heated or kept frozen, no loose ice or alcoholic beverages, and avoid packing foods that give off a potent smell. As far as the Disney dining plan is concerned, the standard plan does give you 1 table service credit and 1 quick service credit to use per day. So if you think that's going to be too much for you, then you might feel better either purchasing the quick service plan instead, which has 2 quick service credits per day, or avoiding the Disney dining plan entirely so you can pay for your meals out of pocket rather than having to feel like you have to keep stuffing food in your mouth all week. Now, if you're having a hard time trying to decide which Disney World restaurants you want to prioritize during your next visit, that's why you're here. That's why you're here with us at DFB Guide. We've eaten at all these places a bajillion times. We go back to them multiple times a year. We know the menu changes. We know what the staff is like. We know the general managers. We know everything about these restaurants. So we can really help you figure out what makes sense for your family. So a great place to start is that we've actually made a free DFB Best Restaurants of Disney World guide, which you can download right now by scanning the QR code you see on the screen or by heading to disneyfoodblog.com/top restaurants. Here you're going to learn about our top 10 favorite places to eat inside the parks and Disney Springs shopping district, which should help give you an idea of what each restaurant has to offer, what their price ranges look like, and what types of eaters are going to enjoy these restaurants the most. All right, our next regret, skipping Star Tours. Now, you may think I'm joking around. Star Tours can make you sick if you have motion sickness. Star Tours is never the one with the longest line. But listen, it has Baby Yoda now, and it's got a lot of other characters it didn't have before. So Star Tours, The Adventure Continues in Hollywood Studios is keeping things fresh. It's got an alternating randomized experience featuring different locations and characters from the galaxy. But every so often, Disney updates the ride to feature new scenes and lore from the ever-changing and expanding Star Wars canon. And on April 5th this year, they did the same thing again. Now you can potentially experience new show scenes based on the latest Disney Plus Star Wars shows, like Ahsoka, Andor, The Mandalorian, meaning you have the chance to see fan favorite characters including Ahsoka Tano and Baby Yoda, Grogu. So the new scenes have been added into the same randomized sequences that the ride already featured, upping the number of possible combinations to well over 250 and ensuring that no 2 experiences on Star Tours are ever going to be the same. And if that's true, why do I keep getting the same ones? I don't know. Okay, you're learning here from my past mistakes. You need to have snacks in your hotel room. Packing snacks to keep in your hotel room isn't just going to keep the hunger at bay, but it might also keep the sickness at bay. We've got another DFB team story for you here. During one of their past Disney World trips, they woke up in the middle of the night with a serious headache. Now, they probably could have gotten up and tracked down a snack vending machine at the very least, but it was like 3 a.m. and they didn't want to do that. To put it bluntly, they wanted to go back to sleep. So what did they do? Took a Tylenol on an empty stomach and paid for it. Having snacks in your hotel room just in case you need to take some medication, or even because you're starting to feel peckish after a long venture back to your hotel room at the end of the day, or just because you need a quick breakfast before the start of your park adventures, isn't just nifty to have on hand. It can be critical during your trip. I have learned this many times. This is why I've spent so many nights eating gas station sandwiches in my room. Very sad. So I just bring along some snack packs with me, and I always sort of have them in the fridge, and I'm ready to go if I'm starving when I get back home in the middle of the night at 2 o'clock in the morning and no place is open with any food. Good things to bring are easy to store snacks like beef jerky or peanut butter sandwiches, like those little peanut butter crackers, packages of popcorn, protein or cereal bars, trail mixes. I tend to make little wraps, like ham and cheese wraps, that I then just put in my fridge. Like I bring them on the plane with me and then I put them in the fridge when I get there, and then they're there if I need them. Good protein, and I'm ready to go. Okay, what about getting in line for a character too late? This happens, y'all, and I don't want it to happen to you. Checking on park hours, restaurant hours, now character meet and greet hours. Yep, you're going to need to make sure you've got a good grasp of all those different time frames. But even when you find out if a certain character is going to wrap up their meet and greets for the day, be warned, because the line might be cut off way before the time listed on the My Disney Experience app, especially if it's a very popular character and that line is really, really long, because they actually have to leave at the time stated. It's not just that the last person gets in line at the time stated. So cast members can close meet and greets 30 minutes before the characters will be heading out, just to make sure our friends can head home for the day right on time and they get to see everybody that was in the line up until then. So for instance, if Moana is meeting and greeting with guests over at Character Landing in Animal Kingdom until 3:45, I'd recommend getting in line before the 3 o'clock hour hits, just to make sure you can see her before she finds her way on out of there. And if you accidentally miss a character meet and greet opportunity, check and see if that character visits guests in other parks. Using Moana here again, if you miss Moana's meet and greet time in Animal Kingdom, but you're planning on hitting up Epcot the next day, you might be able to catch her outside the Journey of Water attraction instead. While some characters only typically stick around one park, others like to mosey between parks, especially the Fab Five, who really seem to get around all of Disney World property with ease. But again, I implore you to check those character meet and greet times ahead of your visit, as well as on the day of your visit, just so you don't miss out on saying hi to one of your favorite pals. Okay, I've already name dropped the My Disney Experience app a couple of times today, but let me just encompass its all-important role for your entire Disney World trip right now. The My Disney Experience app is Disney World's free online planning tool. It's going to help guide you through your Disney day in several key ways. It's going to hold on to your advanced dining reservations and help you make new and last-minute ones too. It's going to give you the ability to purchase and use lightning lanes throughout your park day so you can bypass the longest ride lines. It's going to help you skip over the standby lines of quick service locations and select merchandise locations too, thanks to the mobile order and mobile checkout. You're going to unlock your hotel room with your My Disney Experience app without you needing a physical key card to do so. It's going to hook you up with a boarding group number for new attraction virtual queues. More on that in just a second. It'll even track down water bottle refill locations so you don't have to purchase overpriced water bottles all day long. It can do all that and more. Now, there are folks out there who really don't want to use the My Disney Experience app because they feel like it'll keep their nose in their phone all day long instead of giving them the chance to look up and appreciate the theme parks they paid so much to be in. And that's true. So what I recommend doing instead is delegating multiple My Disney Experience roles to multiple folks in your group if you got the ability to do that. Or better yet, just take turns using the app. As long as you've got the MDE downloaded to your smartphone and your Disney account is linked up to your group's trip, you can jump in and help out with the MDE features whenever you're needed. When you want to add friends and family profiles to your My Disney Experience account or vice versa so that you can book them onto your dining reservations or your lightning lanes and things like that, you can search for someone by their name, phone number, and email address, just as long as they've chosen to make themselves searchable. Just click the allow option when asked if you'd like others to be able to find you. Then there's even a guests you may know feature that has a list of those who shared their family and friends list with someone you know. There's also a QR code that you can scan, and then you have like 30 minutes or something to make them a friend or family. So lots of ways to connect everybody up. This used to be a real hassle. It's not so much a hassle anymore, which is fantastic. But this way, everybody can take turns with their nose in the phone, and everybody else can look at everything that's going on and make memories. Yep, it's time to talk about virtual queues again. After all, Tiana's Bayou Adventure is getting closer and closer to its grand opening day and is slated to make its big debut sometime this summer. So if you want to ride this one, something tells me you're going to need to enter a virtual queue for it, and I don't want you making any mistakes or having any regrets. Disney World uses virtual queues to manage high demand for those super popular rides. Basically, you'll join a queue on the My Disney Experience app instead of actually entering a physical standby line for it. If a ride has a virtual queue, that means there is not a traditional standby line whatsoever. So getting a boarding group number for these virtual queues will be of the utmost importance if you want to experience one of these high demand attractions without paying for an individual lightning lane to see it. Currently, only Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind at Epcot and Tron Light Cycle Run at Magic Kingdom use virtual queues, but we're guessing Tiana's Bayou Adventure will be using one too just as soon as it opens in Frontierland. It may even take the place of the Tron virtual queue, but that's just a guess on our end. Only time will tell whether that's true or not. Now, if you're planning on joining a virtual queue during your trip, there are 3 key things you need to know for now. Number 1, of the 2 possible virtual queue drops available for all park guests, the first one being 7 a.m., the next at 1 p.m., the only one that requires you to be inside the park in order to join the queue is going to be the 1 p.m. drop. For the 7 a.m. queue, you can snag a boarding group number from the comfort of your hotel room or anywhere else, but for that 1 p.m. queue, you've got to be physically inside the correct park where the ride is located. So for example, if I want to get a boarding group number for Cosmic Rewind, but I missed the 7 a.m. virtual queue drop, I have to be inside Epcot in order to try for the 1 p.m. drop instead. Key thing number 2. Although 2 popular rides have virtual queues in Disney World at this time, you can only be in 1 queue at a time, so you'll have to choose either Tron or Cosmic Rewind to prioritize in the morning. You can potentially get in more than 1 virtual queue in a day, but you cannot join the second one if you're still in the first one. So for instance, if you get the Tron virtual queue in the morning and get called back to ride that attraction before 1 p.m., you could technically hop over to Epcot and try to join the 1 p.m. virtual queue for Cosmic Rewind, but that's relying on a lot of specific factors to play in your favor that aren't exactly under your control. It also requires you to have park hopping capabilities, which you may not want to pay extra for. And key thing number 3, when your boarding group is finally called, you'll have 1 hour to get back to the attraction to ride it, unless otherwise stated. Sometimes they say you have 2 hours, usually it's 1. So make sure you're on time. If you're running a little bit late, you should still ask if it's possible for you to get on the ride anyway, and cast members still might be able to let you on, but there's no guarantee that you'll be let in if your return window has expired. And plus, that's kind of uncomfortable for the cast members if they have to break the rules for you. The only way to make sure you can get on the ride is to be there on time, so don't let that 1 hour window pass you by. There are a few more nuances and rules and tips regarding Disney's virtual queues, so I'll go ahead and link our ultimate virtual queue DFB guide down in the description for when you're ready to get serious about your virtual queue plan of attack. That's going to take you over to a blog post on our website. Next regret is believing that ignorance is bliss lie. Now hold on, before you book that advanced dining reservation or add a certain snack or drink to your must-try list, you're going to want to know for sure if these items that you're investing time and money in are actually going to be worth it in the end, which is why the team and I have written a whole series of DFB guidebooks that you can pick up over on dfbstore.com. These digital books are my passion project. I know how hard it can be to find dining reviews, not just in the Disney bubble, but everywhere nowadays, that aren't somehow laced with biased opinions, leaving you not quite sure what to believe. That's why all our food reviews featured across each of these DFB guidebooks are restaurants that I've paid for out of pocket. I want to make sure that the reviews we put out are 110% our honest thoughts and opinions, where we consider the pros and cons from every angle instead of through one singular viewpoint. So if you're interested in learning about what to expect from each Disney World meal, what the price ranges tend to look like for the restaurants, what discounts are available and always at your disposal, and how much you should budget depending on your dining preferences, and so much more, make sure to check out our Everything Bundle, which includes not just our main DFB guide to Walt Disney World dining, but also our other guides too, like our snack guides, our festival guides, holiday guides, and our brand new Disney Dining Plan guide. While our Everything Bundle is already listed at a super discounted price right now, you can add an extra discount on top of the one already featured by typing in code YouTube before you check out. And as always, I thank you for your support of the channel. All right, next regret you might have, not bringing your whole family. Walt Disney's original intent for his parks was to create a place that all ages could enjoy. Not just some ages, all ages. No matter whether you're a toddler, a preteen, a parent, or a great-grandparent, Disney World has a little something for everyone. You just have to remember to give everyone in your group their freedom to follow vacation routines that make sense to them. That might mean keeping up with nap schedules for your kiddos, or planning some extra pool days for your older kids, or letting grandma and grandpa rest when all that walking is getting a bit too strenuous, or even splitting up your group if half of your family wants to do one thing and the other half wants to do something else entirely. You can always regroup for dinner and still get all that family bonding time in with the whole entourage. The important thing to remember above all else is that there's no one-size-fits-all Disney World trip. So have a planning night with your fam, discuss what everyone wants to see and do, factor in those crucial rest days, and make sure that everyone's got a say in what goes down during your upcoming vacation. You guys know I was talking about bringing my mom to Disney World. She's in her 80s, and at the time she was battling a little bit of health problems, and so we needed to get a wheelchair. So I wheeled her around the parks, and we still had a fabulous time going to Flight of Passage, riding Spaceship Earth, all of our favorites. And she loves Wilderness Lodge, so we stayed at Wilderness Lodge and had a great pool day and just sort of chilled out a lot of the time. It was amazing. It was wonderful, one of my best trips ever, and definitely worth all of the blood, sweat, and tears of the wheelchair. Now, the next thing you might regret is bringing your whole family. Yep, you caught me. I am contradicting myself big time here, but for an important reason. It is also 100% A-okay if you want to schedule a Disney World trip that doesn't include the whole family or your entire group of friends. There are times when you just need a solo getaway or a couple's mini-moon or maybe even a father-son trip where mom gets to stay home and blissfully work on things she needs to get done around the house or at her job with no extra interruptions. Am I speaking from personal experience? I don't know. You tell me. Now, it's easy to get caught up in fearing we're going to hurt people's feelings if we don't include everyone we love in our fun-filled vacation. But those Disney World vacations where you don't have to worry about a huge group, as well as everyone's priorities all trip long, are really, really nice. I mean, I take most of my Disney trips now solo because I work when I'm there, and I've gotten kind of spoiled. I love being able to choose where I go for dinner and what I do while I'm there and what rides I want to ride. It's lovely. And it's totally up to me. Now, I'm not saying one trip strategy is better than the other. I've had great, huge family trips. And like I said, I had a fabulous time with my mom, but they are different. And you may want your next Disney World trip to be a little more loosey-goosey with what you want to do instead of having to juggle what everyone else wants to do. So here I am giving you permission to take that solo trip or the couples trip or the girls trip or whatever. And you also have permission to take your whole family. I think you're going to enjoy both. It just depends on what's right for you at the time. Next thing I don't want you to regret is trying to do too much. Now, we haven't talked about this on the channel in a really, really long time, and so I wanted to bring it back up again. I just want to take this time to remind you that Disney World is a gigantic place. So if your main goal of your vacation is to do it all, you're probably not going to. I'm serious. You got 4 theme parks, shopping district, numerous resorts, water parks, even multiple golf courses. You have over 200 restaurants, y'all. Inside the theme parks, you're looking at 50 attractions in each park, not including restaurants, gift shops, and everything else. So here's what you're gonna need to do. Prioritize your top 3 to 5 must-dos each day and let the rest be gravy. If you need to rest, rest. If you need to skip some stuff, skip some stuff. If you need to escape the Disney bubble for a bit to check out a whole different theme park or take an hour drive to the nearest Florida beach, then do it. You're spending a ton of money on this vacation, y'all, so gauge the number of activities you think you and your family can reasonably accomplish in a single trip without tearing each other's eyeballs out. Just saying, and not what the internet or your neighbor or your fantasy football group told you that you should be doing instead. It is up to you. It is your game plan. You know what your family can handle, so don't try to do everything. You're not going to be able to do everything. I still haven't done everything, so be kind to yourself on this one. All right, so you just laser removed all those Disney World regrets like a bad tattoo. One last regret you want to avoid? Don't forget to pick up our free Disney World Best Restaurants guide over at disneyfoodblog.com/top restaurants. That one's free. You don't have to worry about paying for anything. You just get the chance to see if you like the kind of stuff we create. And we will send it your way faster than the speed of a Disney pontoon boat, which can go pretty fast, I'm not gonna lie. Thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for watching. As always, this is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.